What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. This story is called, Teacher Tries to Use My Disabilities Against Me, I Got Her Fired. This takes place in the fall of the 2016 to 2017 school year. I was a senior at the time. Hey, same. The teacher in question was an English teacher that we will call Miss Dog because her name could also be a type of animal. Miss Dog was particularly nice for the most part. She had a really high-pitched and nasally voice that she loved to hear at all times. The first day of school, I introduced myself to her and asked if she could read over my 504 plan. For people who do not know, a 504 plan is an accommodation plan used in public education when a student has certain disabilities that need accommodations. In my plan, it stated that I am a high-functioning autistic. I needed clear and concise written instructions and a special chair because of my spinal issues. I had scoliosis as a kid and had a spinal fusion operation my freshman year, so I was known as the girl with the back brace in middle school and the girl with the metal back in high school. Essentially, everyone in my grade, which was also everyone in this particular class since it was English 12, knew I needed a special chair. Back to the first day of school, I introduce myself to Miss Dog and ask if she read over my 504 plan. She brushes it off and does a, yeah. Okay, whatever, teachers are busy and their jobs are already stressful. She probably had a million other things she had to have done. For the first week of class, I had to take some pain meds to get through English. Miss Dog would regularly get upset that I had brought a bottle of water with me to class every day and that I couldn't stay still in my seat. A classmate of mine, I'll call him Football Jock, spoke up and told the teacher that I do not have the special chair that I need. Miss Dog took that as an insult and was ready to chew out Football Jock when pretty much the entire class started to speak up and agree with him. The weekend passes and Monday I find my chair-desk hybrid thing is replaced with a special chair and a separate desk. I had thought it was over. Oh boy was I frickin' wrong. This was just the start. Fast forward to the middle of the semester. We had just finished reading Lord of the Flies, great book by the way, and we had an assignment to make a music soundtrack for a hypothetical movie of the book and explain what parts of the story would have what song played. Now, I'm a big Vocaloid fan, so I went all out, but I made sure to use English covers of the songs that weren't in English. After we get the grades for the projects, I see that I got a C on it, which was really odd for me since I was a straight A student. I asked Miss Dog about it, and she told me her reasoning for the C was that,
I didn't know what any of those songs are. I was going to give you an F, but your written part and the CD case were both perfect, so I gave you a C.
All while not looking away from her computer screen. I wasn't happy with that answer. I told her, in the middle of class when you said everyone did a good job, you mentioned that everyone's project had songs you've never heard before. Did you give everyone else an F as well? She turned to me with a big scowl before just turning right back to her computer where I saw her change my grade to an A-. Not that I wanted the plus, but enough to save me from getting told off at home for getting a bad grade. And then comes the icing on the cake. All semester, Miss Dog had been doing things to kind of single me out. She always assigned me with the dumb kids of the class. No matter how stupid it sounds, this dude literally drew a picture when the question sheet said, draw your own conclusions. And whenever Miss Dog did this, I would always calmly and politely take it up with her and she'd fix it by the next time with a sneer. It's December, right before the holidays. Miss Dog assigns a scholarly paper about a real social political issue with 3 sources. The topics of the essay were assigned to us randomly. We had no say and we couldn't even change them. So my topic was something along the lines of why Obamacare is bad. I was also taking a health occupation class at the school district's vocational tech center, and my grandma is a licensed medical biller, meaning I know a thing or two about health insurance. A few days go by and I cannot find a third source stating that Obamacare is bad. I ask Miss Dog for help, saying that I can't find a third source for my stance. She tells me,
2 is fine then.
I thank her for her help and get to work writing my essay. The due date is the day before the break and we all turn our papers in. One happy Christmas and New Year's later, and I get to English class. Miss Dog is standing up at the front of the class as we all come in, which is really odd for her to do. The bell rings and Miss Dog starts her rant.
I had high hopes for these papers. I had hoped you all would follow directions.
She looks at me while making direct eye contact.
I had hoped that you all know that I told you all 3 sources, not 2, 3.
She went into a yelling tantrum about how someone didn't have 3 sources, making eye contact with me the entire time. I'm the kind of person to cry whenever someone is yelling in anger. It doesn't matter if it's directed at me or not. I'll cry. So after her rant, I took my stuff and left the classroom. I think I'd gone to the band area to hide until the next class. While in my crying solitude, I finally said enough was enough. I'd usually just keep quiet about stuff like this. I was used to being teased for things since it happened a lot, and I thought this was no different. But it was. This bench needed to pay. I got up and went to the office. I hated going to the office even though I never got in trouble. The feeling of just being in there just made me feel guilty. I asked to see the principal and they let me. The principal of my high school was a very nice man that later went on to getting a position higher up in the school district after I had graduated. I sat down in the principal's office and he was ready to hear the usual bully spiel a crying student would say. I took a second to compose myself and said, "Miss Dog has been using my autism and scoliosis as a way to alienate me from the class and as a way to treat me as a lesser being in her class. She doesn't grade my work fairly and she just screamed at me in front of the whole class to point out that I wasn't like the rest of the students in her class." I've never forgotten what I said, or the principal's face either. He sighed and muttered something along the lines of, "Jesus Christ, not again with Dog." Turns out I was not the only autistic student that Miss Dog had done this to. Every student with autism or any other sort of mental or physical condition that were put in one of her classes was given this treatment by her. I decided to keep it going. It was already over for her, so why not make it as good as I could? Miss Dog has also repeatedly shown me mental abuse during class by doing this bullcrap and that bullcrap. I went on for I don't remember how long with glorifying the events of everything that had happened in that class. Miss Dog looked at me. Well, as the student with a mental disability, I say that she emotionally abused me during class by harassing me with hurtful looks. I hate using my autism in a scummy way like that, but in this case, I played it up so much that I should have gotten an Oscar. I said how she'd constantly threatened me to fail for my autism, how she'd given me bad grades for my autism, how she did so many more things that may or may not have happened because of my autism. I also made sure how most times her class was physically painful for me on most days because she would take my special chair to use it as a footrest and make me sit on an uncomfortable stool, which was true. She did take my chair quite often and then scold me for bringing a water bottle into the classroom when I had to take some meds for the pain. I was Michelangelo, and all these accusations against Miss Dog was the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, my masterpiece. I don't snitch, but when I do, I squeal like a pig. Every single wrongdoing that Miss Dog had done to me, and others in my class as well, were told to the principal that day. For the rest of the semester, I had to spend the time I'd be in English in the main office. I was exempt from the exams for the class and had automatically passed due to my flawless straight A's and 3.7 GPA. I had learned that the day of the exams, the principal had gone to Miss Dog's classroom when first period started. He told her she wasn't allowed to administer the exams and that he would instead because she was fired and needed to get her personal belongings and leave the school property immediately. I don't know how true the part where she was fired in front of students was, since I was told that part by other students from the rumor mill, but I know for sure that she was indeed fired. But that wasn't it. I was in marching band in high school, and my school's band was about 300 kids my senior year. My grandma also did their student accounts. I told my grandma to send a newsletter out to all the marching band parents about how they need to be aware that some teachers are not there for the best interest of their students. And we made sure to put Miss Dog's name in it along with her crimes against little ol' me. 300 students, which meant around 600 or more parents. Parents that work at other school districts in some cases. Miss Dog is no longer allowed to work at any school or educational facility. She is also not allowed to work at places that work with disabled people. Last thing I heard of her was that she was working 3 part-time jobs in fast food. Not 2, 3. I really hope that Taco Bell is one of those places that she works at because Obamacare and the 2 credible sources saying it was bad is no longer a thing. You know what, that was pretty good. I don't understand how someone like that can get a job as a teacher, because that's just kind of ridiculous. Treating people like that, that's stupid. This story's called Scam Me for $80 for Cleaning on Move Out? I don't think so, Jack. Background. About 10 years ago, my landlord died, or at least the person who owned the place we were renting. The property managers had been delightful, but whoever inherited wanted to sell, so the house was for sale. Enter a jackass, we'll call him Jack, who decides to buy the place. Now ours was the top floor, i.e. attic converted into a suite of a house, less than 35 square meters or 375 square feet. The bathroom was literally where the stairs up to the top floor used to be. The place was tiny. Jack came to check out the place, as you should before buying a place. He had one of those Bluetooth earpieces in, and I can't even remember if he even acknowledged us. He spent about 30 to 45 seconds in our suite. Next time we hear from him is about a month later. Apparently, he'd bought the place. He stops by to give us a notice of rent increase, effective in 6 months. Legal minimum from $485 to $795. The place is not worth that much. We say nuts to that and decide to buy a house since it's not much more per month. Surprise to anyone who's never bought a house, it was more than just mortgage payments. We give him all the required notice to move out. We move and clean the place up really well. Mind you, when my partner moved in, it was not especially clean, and we happen to have the move-in inspection which mentions this. Jack decides to try and scam us for $80 of our damage deposit for cleaning. He doesn't provide the required forms, just says, "I'm going to hold $80 from your damage deposit for cleaning." We respond with, no, you're not. Jack, assuming we need the cash for our next damage deposit or bills, and will settle for anything, "Take this or I'm going to keep your whole deposit." Cue revenge. So he decides to just keep the whole deposit, $485. I file paperwork with the rentalsmen, who, unsurprisingly, after their investigation, rule in my favor. He's ordered to refund the whole deposit, but Jack decides not to pay, and the rentalsman doesn't have any enforcement powers. So I have to go to the local sheriff's office. They can send a legal demand for the deposit, plus costs, but it will cost me $100 to $150, I forget, up front. Sure, go ahead. Jack decides to ignore the sheriff's kindly letter. Sheriff says that they can start proceedings to recover the debt plus costs, but I again have to pay up front. About $250, and it might take quite a while. I guess most people quit at this point. Being out of pocket around $700, throwing more money at the problem and maybe having to wait months didn't appeal to them. And there's also a chance you never collect. I chose to pay the sheriffs. They sent another, less friendly letter to Jack, but here's the best part. Now that they're recovering a debt, they're going to recover on all of the outstanding judgments against him, and apparently he has tried this crap before. They send him another couple letters, pay up or else. Jack chose else. Then they seize title to Jack's giant white SUV. I can't remember what it was, but not a cheap one. They didn't physically take it away or anything, but they gave him 30 days to pay all the damages against him or they would take it and sell it at auction. Somehow, he all of a sudden found the money. My share, $485 plus $150 plus $250 equals $885. The other people who'd registered judgments but not paid to start the collections process were about $5,000 more. I can't remember how long the process took, at least 6 months though. The moral of the story, scummy landlords are scummy, and wow, that is not a big living space. Glad they moved out. This story's called Mother's Christmas Revenge. To start, my younger sister and I were the recipients of this revenge. One year, my sister and I were particularly brutal to each other. We even had to get put in separate rooms because we were fighting so much. On Christmas Day, as any child would, my sister and I ran to the living room to see what presents we got from Santa. Only there was nothing under the tree. We were confused, and my mother asked if we had checked our stockings. When we went to check, we saw coal in our stockings. My sister and I were confused, so we ran to where we had left the cookies and milk, and all we found was a note. The note said that he was very disappointed in us for our behavior and that we wouldn't be getting any presents this year because of how badly we acted. He even said that we acted so badly that we would forever be on the naughty list. I started bawling my eyes out and my sister shut down. Then we heard the doorbell ring over my screams. When we opened the door, there was Santa. He said he changed his mind and that if we promised to behave from now on, we could have our presents. We immediately agreed and he left. I wanted to peek out the window to see his reindeer and sleigh, but my mother stopped me. After retelling the story one Christmas Eve, that was when I learned everything. My mother had called the fire department because they did this thing on Christmas Day where they would dress as Santa and deliver presents to the needy. They didn't want to do it until my mother explained the situation and she would leave the presents outside. When she told this story to her coworkers, they told her what she did was terrible and that they would never do that to their kids. My mother would respond with, "Yeah, well, my kids behave now." It's been 15 years since this incident, and my sister and I rarely fight to this day. Ever since I heard this story, I have vowed that if I ever had kids, I would do this to them if they are ever as bad as my sister and I were. Okay, wow, that's super clever. That's like Scared Straight Santa edition. That's a really good idea. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.